Following video is brought to you by BSEN, Boston Sports Entertainment Network. Please subscribe, hit that like button, and as always, leave a comment, and thank you for enjoying the video.
I got the Boston Celtics going to the final.
I got to win the real.
It's time to represent your city. Put your hands up. Colin, you know we do it for Boston. Hey, ain't nobody gonna like Boston. Yeah, hey, can't nobody do it like Boston. Where the legends get made, where the banners get raised, bright lights, big stage. Boston. All the fire we bring in a city full of rings, it's a beautiful thing out in Boston. And you ain't hard like that. You don't put it on the line with your squad like that. That's right, Boston. All we do is win like cigars in the gym, and we at it again. I say, Beantown, what's up? What's up? 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 Feel the energy shift. Now we jumping at the gym. Represent, showing out how we ball above the rim. Larry Legend, 86 to the truth in '08. Cement your name with the all-time great. Still banner 18 in the rafters. Celtic green, only green that matters. It's about that time. Ain't another city that's louder than mine. Always gonna shine with the game on the line. What you think was gonna happen, man? That's how we do it in Boston. Ain't nobody gonna like Boston. Yeah. Can't nobody do it like Boston.
All right, welcome back to Dynasty Proud, episode 10, double digits. My name is Jason. He's Alex. Alex, what's going on?
How's it going, Jason?
Doing pretty well. So yesterday, we're going to get right to the chase here. Celtics just dominate the Warriors, beat them by 50 plus yesterday. Nobody saw that game coming. Primetime game on ABC. You'd think it's going to be a close one, but it turns out to be one of the most historic wins in Celtics history. Tell me about it. What'd you think about the game?
It was a good old-fashioned ass kicking. You know, like it went from 21-21 to 82-38 at halftime in like the snap of a finger. You got to love that strategy that they implemented 15 minutes before the game, where they're just like, oh, you know, this guy that's a two-time All-Star, All-NBA player, let's just leave him wide open from three. And you would figure after he hit the first few, it's like, okay, maybe we'll guard him now. It's like, nope, let's just stick to the game plan. It was almost like arrogance on the Warriors' part, but you know, we did what we had to do, kick their ass, took care of business. Got to rest everybody in the second half, 11-game winning streak. We're just on a warpath right now, you know? So that's why all the haters on Twitter, all they can do is, you know, that's what you said last year. You guys are the 1 seed every year and fail, which actually they aren't. They're never the 1 seed. They were the 2 seed the last couple of years. But yeah, this team just looks different right now through this win streak. Through this 11-game win streak, it's the highest point differential in NBA history. Like this team, it almost doesn't matter who played. We didn't have Porzingis yesterday. You know, like you said, we're playing the Warriors without Porzingis. Like, there's going to be another nail biter. It might come down to the end. You know, Steph Curry, and never even got to that. You know, we got quality Tillman minutes yesterday. Chris Paul played a lot, you know, so that's how they're waving their white flag. But, yeah, I mean, it's awesome game, awesome win. Just keep the streak going.
So just to go over a couple of the basics, right? So we already mentioned Celtics didn't have Porzingis last night. Warriors didn't have Podzinski, who's been playing pretty well for them. He started over Klay Thompson, right? They benched Klay Thompson for this kid. And then Wiggins again had family issues, so he didn't play as well. But still, I mean, to be able for the Warriors to come into the TD Garden and the Celtics to, you know, historically just beat them down with Steph Curry, Draymond, you know, Klay all playing. You know, that says something to the type of team that the Celtics have. And it just, you know, you would have never expected that type of beating on a primetime game on ABC on a Sunday afternoon. You just couldn't see it coming. But you did touch on the crazy defensive strategy that the Warriors tried to implement 15 minutes before the game, which was to basically dare Jaylen Brown to beat them. You know, do you think that's the strategy that team should take? Like they should go at Jaylen Brown, you know, make him beat them? Or do you think there's another way that you could probably attack the Celtics?
As Jaylen Brown said himself yesterday, I hope more teams implement that strategy. Like he's a good 3-point shooter, especially if you're going to leave him wide open. You know, like obviously he can beat you in so many ways, and his main point of attack is getting to the rim, which collapses the defense and opens things up for other players. But if they're going to leave him wide open, he's going to shoot it. You know, this isn't like, you know, leaving some center that can't shoot at all wide open. You know, this is an all-star level player that can hit shots, that has hit big shots. So if they want to implement that, good, go ahead. Jaylen Brown's gonna average 20 points a game. The line on the sports betting sites is gonna have to go up a little bit on his over under from threes if this is what teams are gonna do. But I mean, like, that's the thing about the Celtics is they're so dynamic. They have so many weapons. So it's like pick your poison. If you're gonna cover Jalen, you leave Tatum 1-on-1, and he's gonna beat anybody. You double Tatum, you're gonna leave Derek White, you're gonna leave Drew Holiday, you're gonna leave Al Horford, you're gonna leave Porzingis. There's just so many weapons on this team. You just can't cover them. So all you have to do is hope they miss. And even in a game against Philly where they only hit 5 threes, where the whole narrative is if they're not hitting threes, they can't win, where they still won that game by 20. So this team is like a cheat code right now. They can just win in so many different ways. I just can't see, injury aside, knock on wood, any team beating us.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the Celtics, though, right, and you look at Tatum or Brown, they're their two main scorers, right? So, like, you have to sort of, like, pick your poison. Who do you want to kind of let go free a little bit? And I guess if I'm an opposing team and I'm trying to attack the Celtics defensively, I mean, you're not going to leave Tatum to do whatever he wants, right? You're not. So I guess if you have to leave a player a little leeway, maybe it's Jaylen Brown. But there was a 3-pointer where I'm sure you probably saw it was on Twitter all over the place, or X. Draymond Green, they backed off of him on the 3-point line. They let him do whatever he wanted on the 3-point line, and he made them pay. Like, that to me is just, I don't know if that's just what they wanted to do. Laziness. They didn't think Brown could hit his shots. Or maybe the analytics told him that Jaylen Brown can't hit threes like that. But it was just an awful strategy, and they got historically beat.
That's the Draymond. That's the defense you play on Draymond because he can't hit threes.
Yeah.
But Jaylen Brown is not Draymond Green.
That was like the video you saw in the OKC game yesterday where Josh Giddey dribbled up, tried to call for a screen. Nobody came, popped up a three, and completely missed it. Like, that's the type of defense they were playing. So it makes no sense. But is there any other angles you like from last night? I know it was a blow, and Tatum and the starters really only played a half. Do you take anything else away from this game? Obviously, we're on an 11-game heater. Is there anything else that you could take away?
So I'd say that, because Golden State's kind of been the monkey on our back the last few years, going back to the finals, and that this game probably meant a little bit more to them due to, the season loss earlier this year where they had a big lead and then Steph brought them back, and then the finals. So maybe they were, gassed up for this game, and it makes you think, when the playoffs come around, they just have a whole nother level they can ascend to. But they did this without Porzingis. Like, if this game really meant that much to them, Porzingis isn't hurt. Maybe he's a little bruised up from when he got kneed in the lower regions the other night. But, they could have played him. They didn't. So it's like, well, we still have enough to beat this team. This team doesn't really belong on the floor with us. This isn't the Warriors of 5-6 years ago. Right now we're in a whole different class than them. So we took it seriously, and that's the big thing. It's like, we have a soft schedule, and we'll get to it, to end the year, and we have such a big lead. But it's like, even if they can just get such a big lead by halftime, you can rest most of the second half, and that's what they were able to do.
But yeah, absolutely. You don't need to. If KP's a little bruised up, little tender, little sore, no need to play him. We have the biggest lead ever in the East. You don't need to risk any more further injury. Any stepping on ankles. Like Jalen Brunson had an absolute scare yesterday. I don't know if you saw the video. That injury looked way worse than it ended up being. So you don't want anything like that to happen. So a little bruised, take a seat.
They also didn't want Draymond to injure Porzingis either, so that's another reason you want to play.
You don't want Draymond to sucker punch
with one of those
Porzingis.
kicks to the nuts,
Steven Adams special, right?
Yep.
So when you move to, different topic, right? The Celtics are an absolute powerhouse in the East. As it stands right now, there's no team in the East right now that I can say, oh yeah, they can match up. They can compete with the Celtics. Because right now, the way the Knicks look, the way even the Cavs, the Bucks, the Sixers, the Heat, there's no one that can compete. Do you feel the same way?
Don't tell that to Heat fans. They live in the past, and they have 3 stages. They have the past, they have hope, and they have delusion. So it's just the different levels of coping, and they get louder and louder with every Celtics win. Even though we're 3-0 against them this year with this team, which is really all that matters. Like them beating Grant Williams and one-arm Malcolm Brogdon last year doesn't really do anything for this year. They can't match up with us, I guess, especially with Porzingis. It just unlocks our offense against that zone that they play against us. But they're going to talk themselves into, they're going to win. So as much as I don't want to see them just because of injury risk, not even fear of losing, like just injury risk that comes with playing that team, I would love to just, get them early and just knock them out and shut them up. So I don't fear anybody in the East. Like Bucks fans, after, they got us on our 5th game in 7 nights on a road back-to-back after playing an overtime game with everybody playing over 40 minutes. They kicked their ass that night, hats off to them. But they're still holding on to that, as that means that they're going to beat us in the playoffs. Like, I'd be shocked. I'd be more shocked if the series went 7 than if the Celtics swept them. I don't think either one of those will happen. I think we'll beat them in 5. It could go 6, but I just can't see that team being able to guard us for 7 games. They just can't do it. We just have mismatches at every position, and their offense gets very stagnant. Like, they have good offensive players, but everything runs through Giannis. So if you can keep Giannis out of the paint, turn him into a jump shooter. Look, if he's going to hit 4 or 5 threes, you tip your hat. But I just can't see that team beating us. The Knicks weren't beating us anyways, but if Brunson seriously hurt, they take some out of consideration. Philly wasn't beating us anyways, but without Embiid, they're not going to do it. And Cleveland, like, they've had a nice run against inferior opponents, but I don't really take them that seriously. So for me, all the competition's in the West, and you're only going to get to play one of those teams. So I think Denver, like, just because of the way they play, they would give it the best matchup. But, and again, hats off to them. They're the champions. We didn't get to play them last year. Thanks for Gabe Vincent sliding under Tatum's ankle. But I just still, even them, I don't think it would go 7. Like, I can see that being a tough 6-game series. Like, Jokic is the real deal. Jamal Murray's a great player. They have a lot of weapons on that team. I just think we're head and shoulders above everybody right now.
No, I agree. I think one of the main things that you need if you're an opposing team facing the Celtics is you need size, you need length. The Celtics are the lengthiest team in the league at all 5 starting positions. And the only team out of the whole entire NBA, East and West, is the Nuggets, because you got Gordon, you got Michael Porter Jr., you obviously Jokic, and then Jamal Murray, who can sort of match up, who actually they beat the Celtics, right? 1 game back in Boston. We played them again on Thursday. So it'll be interesting to see if the Celtics learn anything from that matchup or whatnot. But, like, even in the East, switching back to the East, what team has the length and the firepower to compete? Like, there's no – and, last episode, I know I said that he could probably compete, but, like, I mean, watching the Celtics, I mean, it'd be a miracle if the Heat figured out a way to beat the Celtics even in 6, right? It'd be a straight-up miracle. It would take refereeing. You mentioned Tony Brothers before going nuts.
Tony Brothers is reffing every other game.
Like, it would take, like, just stuff that we don't want to imagine right now for that to happen for the Heat or any other team to beat the Celtics in the East. And that's just how it is. And in the West, to me, it's only Denver. There was talk that maybe, like, the Clippers could maybe compete or whatnot, but even them, like, they don't have the length. I know they have Paul George and Kawhi or whatnot, but I don't even think that's enough.
I mean, then people talk about health concerns. I mean, that's like the prototype for a team with health concerns. Like, you're counting on I almost said Porzingis. I mean, that's our own worry, but you're counting on Paul George, you're counting on Kawhi, James Harden, all to be healthy, and then James Harden to actually perform in the playoffs. Like, I mean, I could, like, if you tell me the Clippers make the finals, I wouldn't be shocked, but I wouldn't bet on it. I mean, I shouldn't bet on anything, but I think Denver's coming out of the West. I think it's theirs to lose. I think the East is ours to lose. I think Thursday is going to be a finals preview. As Charles Barkley said, they stomped us in Boston, 102-100. So it'd be nice. That's the only game really the rest of the way that I really want to win. I mean, it's not that I don't want to win, but it's like that has any significance.
Yeah.
Like, they're running away with the 1 seed. Milwaukee, whether we beat them in the last 2 games or not, it really does mean nothing, because come playoff time, I know we can beat that team. So I just want to see how we match up with Denver. Where it was a good game the first time, came down to the last shot. So hopefully we can split the season series with them and then start, resting and ramping up for the postseason.
So I have a quick question, just thinking about Denver, right? If we're going to preview a finals matchup, do you think the altitude in Denver plays any part of the Celtics going there for 3, how many games they're going to go there for? Do you think the altitude, favors Denver in a way that they could take a game or 2 from the Celtics in that matter?
I mean, if they decide to play it at Coors Field, then I think it could be a big factor. But inside, I mean, you got to adjust to it. Like, I'm not saying it's not a factor. I've personally never been to Colorado, so I can't speak on it. I think you need to take care of business in your home games for sure, because, we'll have earned that through our, our record all season to get the home court advantage. But, I mean, we have to win. We should be able to win over there. It's like you'll be able to adjust to it. You have a couple days. Just try to stay inside. I don't really know how it affects them in an indoor environment, so I can't really answer that one. What do you think?
So I think people, when you go to Denver, right, the air is thinner. So if you're not used to that air, you can get tired more easily. Like, you're huffing and puffing. Especially if you're doing, like, at physical exercise. You run up and down the basketball court. If you're not used to it, it can affect you and make you more tired a lot more easily and fatigued easily. So, Denver, obviously, they're used to it. They live there or whatnot. They play half their games there. They're used to the air. They're used to, the altitude. So that's why I'm just getting out ahead of it now because, if, Celtics and Nuggets, finals matchup, they're going to be saying, oh, the Celtics aren't going to be able to keep up in Denver because the air, they're not used to it. Advantage Denver. So I can already hear those conversations and those comments coming. But theoretically, it's not like Tatum and Brown and all of them haven't played there before. They know what it's like to go and play there with thin air. So,
I mean, they're young in their prime athletes, have a couple of ventilators on the sideline if we need it. But to me, that's not really a concern. Yeah. Oxygen tank, that's a better word.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we'll get there when we get there. But I think we should still be able to take at least one game in Denver in that series. And honestly, we don't even have to if we can just hold serve at home.
Oh yeah, we'll be fine. I know we'll have to play at least 3 games there, but either way will be good. So I guess we want to find out who is going to stop the Celtics. We've already sort of bled into that with saying probably the Nuggets are the best, but I want to know, besides the obvious teams, I'm going to pick a team in the West. I want you to pick a team in the East. What team do you think could give us the most trouble in terms of maybe the series goes an extra game or two versus, a 5-6 game series? Like, what team in the East do you think could be a tough out for the Boston Celtics?
I mean, I have to go Miami. Even, despite what we see in the court, playoff Jimmy, as much as they want to say that's the thing, he does turn it up in the playoffs. We've had our struggles with them. I mean, we went 7 the last 2 years with them. I get it. This is a much better, top talented team from the Celtics. And they did lose 2 pieces and gave Vincent and Max Strus from last year. Jaime Hawkins has looked good. Duncan Robinson's playing at a better level. They still have Bam. They still have Jimmy. So it's going to have to be them. They're a very well-coached team. Whereas you go against the Milwaukee Bucks, Doc Rivers is a net negative if he's any effect at all. Spo is a positive for that team. So I'd say it's Miami. That's a series that I don't think we're going to lose. I don't think it even goes 7. But that's a series that the Celtics really wanted to. They could end in 4 or 5 at the latest. And that could end up going to 6 just because of, some fluke thing that always happens when you play the Heat. They all, find their way into our landing space or, some BS happens. So I could see that being the series that goes longer. I guess you could say maybe in the first round with Orlando, like that should be a sweep. Orlando does have a lot of size and physicality. They're lengthy to be able to guard us. So maybe that series goes 5 instead of 4. But I don't think anybody even takes us to a game 7.
No, I agree. I agree with that. So if I'm going to pick a team in the West, right, for a finals matchup, a team that I think is kind of getting a little overlooked, and they did have the best record in the West for a little bit, was the Timberwolves, right, with Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, Gobert, Jade McDaniels, Naz Reid, like that team. And they when they came to Boston a month or so ago, that game went into almost double overtime, right? Wasn't it a double overtime game for that game?
It was an overtime game. It was the one before Milwaukee where we were down 9 with under 2 minutes to go. We stormed back to tie it, and then in overtime, Tatum just went off, and he scored 45 to win that game.
So that, them to me, obviously they'd have to go through the Nuggets and Lakers and Clippers and whoever else is in their way. Suns, another wild factor team there. Well, you would assume LeBron and AD find a way.
They may have to play them. I don't see that being a problem this year, but you never know. If the league wants it to happen, they'll give them enough free throws for it to happen.
Put Tony Brothers out there to help him.
He'll be there. He'll be out west early, and then he'll be Eastern Conference Finals for us.
That's hilarious. But yeah, I see the Timberwolves being, a threat to a degree. They played us tough once. If we see them in a 7-game series, that game would probably go 6-7 games if I were to imagine. But I would pick them. I just think they're a good team. They got length, right? Anthony Edwards is a dog. McDaniels can shoot threes. Naz Reid comes off the bench and he pops threes too. So any team that can shoot with the Celtics can, compete to a degree. It's just up to Boston if they want to put them away or not.
I just don't think that team can score with the Celtics. Now they're the best defensive team in the West. And I would say from that standpoint, they would make it very challenging on us because we won't be able to score at will. But you look at them, they have their own offensive problems. And I just think we have more offensive weapons. Like, yeah, Anthony Edwards is a great player. Karl Anthony Towns, he's, he can have great games, but he's not always reliable. And then he's a complete like negative on the other end of the floor. So I just think we have 5 two-way players, actually 6 if you include Horford coming off the bench. So I think we're more well-rounded than them. I also don't see that team getting out of the West. So that's why I try to concern myself with them. To me, it's Denver, and a tier below that is the Clippers. And then if you're going to put something else in, I think the ceiling of the Suns is just higher. Now, I don't know if the Suns will get there because they've kind of been a disaster this year. They're hanging around the 5. I don't trust Dallas at all. But I would put them ahead of them just because they have 2 elite scorers. Well, I mean, you could say 3, but Bradley Beal's taking a step back. But, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, I'd still take them in a series over Minnesota.
So actually, last night, Devin Booker sprained ankle. So I don't know how long. He could be 2-4 weeks or whatnot, but he's probably going to be gone for at least maybe half of the games remaining. But you mentioned Dallas, and the Celtics did just play Dallas a couple nights ago, and Kyrie Irving obviously coming back, being 0 for 10 since leaving Boston. We've talked about Dallas before, right? And Luka and Kyrie, and can they, make a run? I've mentioned this before. The style of play that they play is just so not conventional to being able to win consistently. And the Celtics proved that, they're just going to blow them out of the water. You have any thoughts on Kyrie coming back and the fans booing him and whatnot, pretty much giving it to him the whole entire time?
I mean, I think he signed up for that when he exited the way he did, and then he's carried on the way he has since he did. Like if he was a more mature person, more mature player, like he actually gave a good answer after the last game about it, saying like, yeah, they have a right to boo me. I pretty much that the Celtics kick our ass every single time we come here. That's not why we're booing him. It's because of the way he's carried on, like he could have made this much better on himself, but he doesn't really do anything to make things better on himself. But from a basketball standpoint, I mean, yeah, they're great offensive players, Luka and Kyrie, but they're not two-way players. Both of them can't defend. Luka just doesn't defend. Kyrie doesn't have the physical capabilities really to defend. So, yeah, I mean, you're going to have nights where the two of them are going to combine for like 75, 80 points. But if they're giving up 80 to 90 on the other end of the court, then what's that really doing for you? It's like I'll take Tatum and Brown any day over those two because they're two-way players. So, every single time the Celtics match up with the Mavericks, they beat them. And it's because they can defend and Dallas can't. And so, yeah, Luka ends up with 37. Well, Tatum ends up with 32. And then the box score watchers are like, oh, Luka outplayed Tatum 37 to 32. It's like, meanwhile, Dallas lost by 26. Like, what are we doing here? Like winning should mean something. That's why I can't imagine anybody having Luka over Tatum in, the MVP race. Like the narrative is like, oh, his super team is super team. It's like the numbers, like Tatum could score 40 every night if he wanted to. He cares about winning. He cares about playing defense. So, when we're winning, that should matter. So, like, how are you going to have Luka above him? And then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's like the shiny new toy that everybody found out about this year. He's having a great season, but it's like he's only 9 months younger than Tatum, and he has zero playoff accolades. But meanwhile, the whole Tatum playoff choker, even though he has the Game 7 record, 51 points in a Game 7, he single-handedly down 3-2 in Milwaukee, carried us to victory. He's already been to a finals. He just turned 26 yesterday. Like, I don't understand these conversations. I think Jokic should be the MVP, but after that, I mean, it should be Tatum, should be 2. I mean, you could put Giannis there as well because he's putting up great numbers. But I mean, that team compared to the expectations that they had, they're not really exceeding them. They're tied for the 2nd seed, but they're almost 10 games back of us.
So I have a quick question to ask you about Luka, especially. If you take Luka off the Mavericks, do you think the Mavericks are as good as they are right now?
No. Now,
so
I think it depends who else you're putting. Like, for example, let's say in a vacuum here, you traded Luka and you traded him to, I don't know, Atlanta, and you were to get Bogdanovich, you were to get who
Murray.
else could you get from? Yeah, DeJounte Murray, someone like that, and you get a shitload of draft picks. That team in a regular season might have about the same record. I think they'd be more, fundamental. I think they'd play more the right way. Now, I think their ceiling is much less, and they probably would draw less attendance because you don't have this, generational superstar out there. But I don't think that would make them that much worse. I don't think he's conducive to winning because of his style of play. Like, he's amazing to watch. He's fun to watch. But it's like the guy dribbles the air out of the basketball for 20 seconds and then takes a tough fadeaway. Like, hats off to him. He can hit it. But, like, that's not team basketball. And then when he gets doubled in the 4th quarter and he's dishing it out to somebody who hasn't touched the ball in 2 quarters, because they've just been watching the Luka show. Like, this is not team basketball, So that's why Tatum, he was getting all the hate yesterday. It's like, oh, super team merchant because, like, he had 2 points in the 1st quarter and they were already up 20. And then, of course, when he scores 20 in the 2nd quarter, it's all stat padding. Like, so you can't really win these arguments. But it's like it's a bad thing that he's making the right pass. Like Jalen's wide open. Is he supposed to take a shot over 2 defenders or pass to the guy that's wide open? Like that's what winning basketball is,
Yeah, I don't understand why people give Tatum so much. I mean, the Celtics, Tatum does not need to score 35 a night. He just doesn't. He has the supporting cast. He can pass. He can, assist his teammates and being able to do other things. Like he's not Luka, where Luka is, it's Luka, Kyrie, and you have a supporting cast of minimum players because you're paying Kyrie and Luka a combined 80 million together, to half form a basketball team. Like I don't understand why people give Tatum all that crap when he's trying to get his teammates involved. And, as it is already, KP and Drew are probably taking a hit in their scoring production, but they don't care. They want to win a chip. So, and even Tatum's probably taking a dip too, and Brown as well. I mean, they're not, how many games have you seen Tatum and Brown combined for 30, a piece? It's probably been a while. I mean, I personally haven't checked, but if I had to bet, it'd be a little while.
There's just too many weapons on this team. Like give Tatum Luka's stat line, which if he really wanted to, maybe not the triple doubles, but like Tatum could be averaging 35, 36 right now. But if the Tatum's averaging 36 and the team's in the 7th seed, like the Mavericks are, is anybody talking about Tatum for MVP? No, they aren't. It's a Celtic, it's a double standard. It's a Celtic hatred and that's why Tatum, because he's under the umbrella of the Celtics, is getting that. So, when he wins the chip in June, maybe that'll change, or maybe they'll talk about him like he's some journeyman that finally got over the hump, even though he just turned 26 and he's already more accomplished than all these other stars like Michael Jordan, Kevin Durant, Giannis, like think of any LeBron James, like all these guys, none of them won until they are 26, 27, 28 years old. Tatum gets held to this, higher standard than all these all-time greats, but he also doesn't get the other side of it where he gets the recognition. It's like a hatred, it's a sickness, but can't do anything about that. Like we're winning all these games now, and then then you're gonna have the other people. It's like, are they peaking too early? Which a Bucks fan said in my mention yesterday, which I'm surprised Felger and Maz aren't covering all day today. But I mean, what do you want them to do? They're supposed to win these games. If they lose a game, then you're gonna have Perk and Colin Cowherd come on saying, this loss means they're not contenders, they can't win the title. So you really can't win. So all you can do is just play the schedule in front of you, try to win as many games as you can, let the chips fall where they may. I mean, as much as I'd like it to be April, May, and June right now, it's not. So you just got to do what you can, win games, stay healthy, and just gear up for the playoff run.
Honestly, what you've said right there is the double-edged sword that a Celtics fan and player have to deal with on a daily basis. Celtics lose a game, they drop a game, all hell breaks loose. They suck. They're not going to make it out of the first round. But when they beat a team like the Warriors 50+, they better win. They better win the chip. You can't let this team go to waste. It's over if you don't win. You got to blow it up. So it's like no matter what they do on any given night, you're going to get the other edge of that sword. It's going to have to be like that. And the only way we're going to stop this narrative of Perk and Cowherd and Felger and Maz and all these other personalities, Stephen A. Smith, is just they got to win in June. And once Tatum gets that ring, then hopefully we'll never have to hear any of these narratives ever again. Would you agree?
You'd like to think so. I mean, it's still going to happen. Like they're going to, Heat fans are like, one title in 16 years. It took Tatum needed a super team to get it done. And then in the scenario that, we win the title, but the Heat lose too early and we don't get to play them, it'll be like, well, still couldn't beat Jimmy, even though they all forget about 2022, which is 2 years ago when we, beat them in Game 7 in Miami to go to the finals. That never happened. It's like the Men in Black with, the Flash. Like it just never happened. But they also reference that, they loved hypotheticals. If Jimmy Butler hits that 3 on the transition, then they go to the finals. They forget there were still 20 seconds left of that game. Like that's just assuming the Celtics don't score. Like you saw what they did in 3 seconds last year on an inbound play. Yeah. Maybe they don't score, but just assume that he hits that shot that they have no chance to win is ridiculous. But you're trying to argue facts and logic with people that are just delusional.
Yeah, that's true. There's no end in winning for Celtics fans or the Celtics in general. You're going to deal with it one way or another. Nobody's going to be happy. That's just how it's going to be. We're going to look ahead, right? We're going to look ahead to the schedule. We're going to see who they're playing this upcoming week. So obviously, just played the Warriors. So I was looking forward to the Nuggets, but I completely spaced out. They play the Cavs on Tuesday night on TNT, which is a nationally televised game. Again, I don't really expect anything really from that game. I mean, do you take anything with it? I mean, I know the Cavs are a good team or whatnot, but like my eyes are on the Nuggets. What about you?
I wouldn't mind sitting Porzingis again in that, get him rested and ready for Denver.
Yeah.
Plus, I got PTSD seeing Jalen Brunson go down yesterday, and just thinking of all the things that seem to happen in Cleveland because of the Gordon Hayward injury, I would just rather
Yeah,
Porzingis sits. I'll feel a lot better. Even if they somehow
yeah,
lose that game, like it doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things. Like we've already played Cleveland twice this year in Boston. I was actually at both those games in December.
yeah,
Won both those games. I have a West Coast road trip coming up. We got Denver, we got Phoenix, who may be without Booker. So we'll see about
yeah.
that. And then
They
I think
will. Yeah,
we have Utah and Portland on the back-to-back. I mean, those are two games that
yeah.
you could sit Porzingis both. You could, flip him and Horford 1-1, which they probably end up doing anyways. You could give Jalen Brown a night off. Like those are games they should win anyway. So coming up, I mean, I think the Denver game's the big focus. So just making sure everybody gets through this trip healthy. Win as much as we can.
So I would say when I look at the schedule, to me, the Celtics season ends, and I'm saying this in quotation marks, March 20th, when the Bucks play the Celtics for, I believe, the final time this season. They may have
They
another
play him. They
matchup in
play him at the
April.
very end of the year,
They do. Okay,
but we
so
won't
they'll
be
start the
playing anybody
season
in that
back
game.
up. Yeah, they'll be, everybody will be in Cancun resting up for the playoffs. I'm just kidding. Don't take me seriously. So it's Nuggets, then you get the Suns twice. Is basically the three biggest games besides the Bucks twice that the Celtics have for the rest of the season, in my eyes. Then you're just playing the pit. You get literally the gauntlet of what the 76ers and the Bucks got at the beginning of the year, where you get Hawks twice, Bulls, Pistons, Wizards, and just the garbage games that literally you could sit half the team and win those games. It wouldn't
Hayden
really matter
Pritchard's
to
going
me.
for 6 man of the year category after those games. Like he's going to be playing a lot of minutes,
Yeah,
taking a lot of shots. So
like Jaden Springer, get your minutes. Xavier Tillman, get your minutes. Luke Cornett, get your minutes. Like that's pretty
Luke
much what we
Cornett.
got going on here. Drop shot. The Suns games were going to be interesting, but that Booker injury looked kind of ugly last night. So I doubt we see Booker with the two matchups that are coming up for the Suns. We go two Suns on Saturday, 8:30, another primetime game, and then another primetime game on the 14th when the Suns come to Boston. So I doubt Booker will be available for both of those. Portland's trash. The Jazz are trash. So, I mean, it's tough. I mean, when you win this much, you can't put any stock, especially now, into any of these games. And then when you click on April and you look at like who they're playing, like, okay, the Kings and Thunder, maybe another decent back-to-back stretch. Not back-to-back, but you play them in a row, and then you got the Bucks and Knicks to end out the season. I mean, I don't know.
I think they're going to go into load management after the Bucks game.
You think so?
I think they're going to. It's a balance between getting everybody rest and not being too rusty. Because no matter what, after our last game of the season, we're gonna have a week off until we play our first round opponent, which we'll have to wait because we're gonna have to see who comes out and is the 8th seed. So they're gonna get a lot of practice time in, a lot of rest. Like Porzingis is the one you're gonna want to give a lot of rest to. Horford's still not gonna play back to backs. Like I know Tatum's not gonna want to sit; he's gonna want to play as much as possible. But a couple games here and there, split. One game off with him, one game off with Jalen. Derek White, I can't really see missing games, but maybe you give him one day off. If he has another child between now and the end of the season, give Drew Holiday a day off. So
that's hilarious. Did you know that the Bucks are actually in second place now? So they jumped the Cavs.
the only thing is, look at the Bucks' schedule. They have their March schedule is a gauntlet. Like I want to think that like the Bucks are better than the Cavs. They should finish above them, but that schedule is rough.
I'm looking right. I mean, just off the page, they got Clippers, Warriors, Lakers, Clippers, Kings, 76ers, Suns, Celtics, Nets, Thunder, Lakers, Pelicans, Hawks, and then the end out in April, they got a gift. They get Magic and Wizards and Raptors. No Scotty
if they come
Barnes
out of
anymore.
that stretch still in second place, like then you maybe take them more seriously. But they could easily fall from there's kind of a gap between third and fourth right now. It's like 4 or 5 games. So they'd have to really fall. But I could see if this Brunson injury is serious, we're still waiting for the official diagnosis. But if it's serious to the point where like he's missing a lot of time or worse, they could possibly fall into the play-in. They're only a couple games out of it. Like between 4 and 8, there's a lot that can happen.
So there was actually news on his injury. So he has a knee contusion, no MRI was needed, so he stayed a day. So he avoided serious injury. So that's good for Knicks fans. He should be good to go. So but I'm not even worried about the Knicks anymore, to be honest. Like they just they got a good team, right? But like they have a bunch of guys that haven't played in a while, and OG and Randall. who knows when they're going to come back? Are they going to be able to keep up with what the Celtics have been doing? Probably not. That's my estimation. But I guess you never know until it happens. But I mean, Celtics are cooking right now. They really it's tough to talk. It's tough to sit here and try to nitpick because there's not you can't there's not a lot of stuff to nitpick. Like the Celtics are such a perfect, as close to perfect as you can be basketball team that we can't come on here for an hour and be like, oh well, Jaylen Brown, he's not living up to his contract, or KP he's not playing like we thought he would if he was going to come to Boston, or Drew Holiday, he doesn't like it in Boston, or Tatum's not doing they're all living up to what they're supposed to be. So it's good to see, but it also kind of hurts, podcasting talk a little bit because, we don't want to be, green teamers nonstop. We want to be able to give constructive criticism where it's due, but at the same time, when there's nothing to dish out, you can only be positive.
I mean, unless you're 98.5 and then you find those negatives. I mean, I'm sure Joe Mazzulla is going to find areas of improvement. I mean, even if you watch, I don't know if you've been watching the Patriots Dynasty documentary, but it's even after they'd win, you still find, okay, well, we didn't do this play right. We didn't do this right. I'm sure they're still figuring that out because, yeah, they're running through everybody now. But, when the playoffs come around and, there's certain situations, they can actually, they have the advantage now of being able to really game plan and hone in on opponents. Yeah, we don't know who we're going to play in the first round, but you feel like you'll end up seeing Milwaukee down the road. You'll probably end up seeing Miami down the road. So you can start to game plan for that. But, the only thing that's negative about the Celtics is that it's, first week in March and it's not the end of April when the playoffs start. It's not May. It's not June. We can't do anything about that. So all these tired narratives and false takes and Celtic hatred, it's they're trying to get it off now, which, by the way, Celtics fans, if you're watching this, get your bookmarks out. But we can't do anything about it now. So just got to keep rolling, keep building good habits, keep stacking up W's, and get ready for the real season.
Yeah, so I had a question I was going to ask you, and it completely blanked my mind. Oh, I got it. So the Celtics play the Knicks and the Bucks, right? The 76ers and a couple other Cavs or whatnot. Do you think these teams are going to show the Celtics their best effort, coming to the end of the season? Or do you think they're going to save their effort and their, good plays and stuff for playoffs? Do you believe in that narrative of when you come to the final weeks in the season, the teams aren't really going to show their best because they could potentially face them in the playoffs?
I think from those teams' perspective, no, because they're playing for something. They're playing for whether it's a 2 seed, the 3 seed, having home court in the first round, even making the playoffs and getting out of the play-in. They're playing for something. So maybe they can think as let's say they don't play the Heat again. The Knicks doesn't really matter, but let's just say hypothetically they're playing one of those teams and they're we might see the Celtics down the road. So, we want to save this game plan, but they really need this victory so they can have home court in the first round or even make it to the playoffs and out of the play-in. So those games mean more to them. When you look at the Celtics perspective, maybe March 20th, the next time they play the Bucks, we'll just go full throttle, sorry, Red Sox fans. But go, kind of go at them hard just to avenge what happened last time. But the last game of the season, I don't expect any Celtics players to play against the Knicks, to play against the Bucks. They've already proven themselves. What's the point of besides exposing game plan, risking injury against those teams? So I don't think it's anything to really worry about from this point forward. The only we play the Suns, I don't think we'll see them again after we play them twice. You never know, but I think those two games will be the only time we see him this season. Denver, yeah, you may worry about that, but you're more focused on the task at hand of winning that game. So I don't know. What do you think, Jason?
Well, I only asked that question because there was a narrative from just a gray check mark on X, no one with credibility, but they were basically putting their opinion out there saying the Warriors just didn't look like they didn't even try yesterday. They're playing, they're this defense that they made up 15 minutes before the game. Were they actually trying to show the Celtics their best basketball? And part of me gave it a thought, and I'm like, well, how do you – it's very tough for, Steph Curry and Draymond and Klay to not give you, their best basketball. I know, Steph was, I guess, a little beat up before the game or whatnot. He came in questionable. But if you're playing, you're playing. That means you're healthy enough to play and give your best effort on the court. So I don't know if I believe that narrative. It's hard for me to see it. But the way that Steve Kerr made it sound we were trying to play, but at the same time – end of a 4-game road trip. We're out east. Everybody's tired. We were basically packing it in. We want to go home. I can't see that, What about you?
I think Steve Kerr is the biggest Karen in the league. And they have bigger things to worry about than showing their hand to the Celtics when they're fighting to stay in the play-in tournament. I don't think we ever, as Charles Barkley said to Draymond Green when they did the interview All-Star Week of Jaylen Brown and Draymond Green. What Jaylen Brown said, we'll be ready for you guys next time. And like referring to the finals, and then Charles Barkley says to Draymond, it's like, well, he won't be there, referring to Draymond. Like, the Warriors aren't going to be there. They're not getting through the Nuggets. I don't think they're getting through the Clippers. The Suns, who knows? The Timberwolves, who knows? Oklahoma City, who knows? Like, I don't see that. That team's just not good. Like, Steph Curry is still great. Klay Thompson's regressed. Draymond sucks now. Like, yeah, they have a couple good young pieces. Kuminga stepped up, Pozinski, but I don't think that team is a top 5 team in the West. Forget standings. Like, I don't think they're one of the 5 best teams in the West. So I don't think we have to worry about them, like, exposing themselves to the Celtics. They're not going to see us again. They'll see us on TV, but they're not going to see us again. So I don't know. I don't buy that. I think Steve Kerr is just, finding an excuse for that ass kicking that he endured yesterday.
Yeah, when you look at that team, Klay just looks, and it sucks. It's like, if you're a general NBA fan, right? Like, you've seen Klay, Stephen A has talked about him being one of the most like prolific shooters he's ever seen, top 3 shooter in the NBA history. And just when you watch him, it's the injuries, obviously the ACL and the Achilles back to back that takes a number on you, but that team is not going to go anywhere unless Klay steps it up. Kuminga plays like an all-star, and then Wiggins comes back and plays the way that he's been playing. I don't see how that team can even make it to the Western Conference Finals, to be honest, the way that they look right now. Steph's a year older. I mean, if they get match up with a team like OKC or even like the Kings or whatnot, like that's a tough out for them. Like, they're not going to be able to walk through the West like they usually do. So it's just, you always wonder what that team year after year, like, are they going to keep losing like a piece? Like, this is probably Klay's last year, like, and it's going to suck. I mean, they've been, borderline dynasty, or probably a dynasty for, forever now. So it's like, it's not to the same exact, level, but it's like you're watching, the Patriots just fall apart, even though they haven't been that successful for that long.
I'm surprised when they panned the bench yesterday that Klay wasn't holding up one of these, like, to show his score rings, because he's like the guy that, I mean, get it. He's a generational, well, not generational, but he's an all-time great shooter. He is a champion, 4-time champion, tip your hat to him. But it's like a guy who can't let it go, that he's not that player anymore, that they're not that team anymore, and it's just like he's bitter. Like, Steph Curry doesn't act like that, But even Steph Curry, after the game yesterday, he called the Celtics the best team in the league. And then he said, I remember we used to beat people like that. Like, I think he's acknowledging the Celtics are that great right now, and also saying, like, look, we're not that team anymore. And I think he acknowledged that, like, he's still a great player, but Klay Thompson's, I think, the biggest adjustment, because he's not that player anymore. And that team is not that team anymore. A big part of that is because he's not that player anymore. So that's kind of hard for him to grasp. And I think that's going to be the limitation on that team, is short of Kuminga really taking another big leap before the playoffs. Like, I don't see him getting out of the first round. I think maybe if they got OKC in the first round, you have the veteran experience versus a team that's just young. Like, maybe, but they're not going to beat Denver. They're not going to beat the Clippers. I don't think they beat the Suns.
No, they're not that good. And like you said, Klay is he's not what he used to be. And Kuminga to take another step for the playoffs just probably isn't realistic. He's still young. You don't want to put too much weight on his shoulders. Steph's going to have to turn back the clock to give that team a chance. And, if he has it in him, we'll never know. But, I think that's going to do it for episode 10 of the Dynasty Proud podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Dynasty Proud 18. I keep calling it Twitter. It's X. I'm going to get that wrong every time. And then on YouTube at BSEN_617. So, Alex, you got any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Man, what a team. What a team the Celtics team is. Just, knock on wood, we can I don't even care so much about wins and losses anymore. Just keep building good habits, get rested, stay healthy come playoff time. This really is the year. This team is just different.
Yeah, that's same for me. Got to stay healthy, rest when you need to, take the easy games off. Tatum, please. You don't have to play in the Pistons building when they're 9-27. You don't have to. Just stay healthy and let's keep it moving. Don't take your foot off the gas. Get the 60 wins. So that will do it for us today. We will see you guys in the next one.